You know it's all about that bass, no trouble.
I'm old Big Mek, and this is the Red Ones Go Faster! Whoa!
Wow, indeed I am old Big Mek, and this is the Red Ones Go Faster, and today we are talking about bass. Not booty bass, but bases. Let's get into it! Alright, like I said, this episode is all about basing. So when it comes to doing our armies, they all have bases on them, right? And you got to do something with them. And you can't just leave them the plain old black plastic, because one, that looks bad, and two, like that little bit of pebble texture really isn't enough to do much of anything. So you have some options, right? Option one is you paint it, and you know, that looked good back in 1997. And then you had good old flocking grass to put on there. That also looked good in about 1997. And nowadays, you've got all sorts of options. I mean, so many of the figures now come with these like really awesome bases and stuff that, you know, are like pre-molded that you can stand on. There's all sorts of aggregates and things you can add to it to really make them look cool. And yeah, your whole army basically can have this identity from the base. So it's really important. And the reason why I want to talk about it today is, one, I need to get some basing done on my orc army for October, and two, it allows me to really talk about a whole lot of really cool products, most of which we'll be able to link down in the description below. So they take you to Amazon, their affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything extra at all. And even if you don't buy whatever it is you click on, if you buy literally anything at all, after clicking the link, old Big Mek gets, you know, a half a tooth, and that allows me to keep making these videos. So I'd really appreciate it. I've been doing a video a day every single day throughout October. We have done 6 videos in a row already. This one is number 7. That is 1 full week. We got 3 weeks to go, and it's a long slog. It takes a lot of work to make these videos and come up with the ideas and have all the stuff to do it. And yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a big learning thing, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying all the comments and interactions. There's one of you that you work night shift, and like my midnight uploads are what gets you through night shift, and that's awesome. And I've got people that have YouTube channels of their own that do like really cool videography that, you know, complement having, you know, the couple of good shots I've had. And so many of you that have orc armies and are just really enjoying it, and then so many of you that don't even have orcs and you're just here because it's fun. I appreciate each and every single one of you. It's really been awesome and humbling. And yeah, I'm glad you're all joining me for the ride, because I love this stuff and I'll do it every day regardless of whether or not anybody's watching. But having somebody to share it with is so much better. So let's get into it. For my particular army, for my orcs, my basing scheme is, I've got it down. It took me a little bit, but I've got it down now, and it's kind of simple. What I start with is I paint the base with Tamiya XF59 Desert Yellow. That is my color of choice. Now, whatever color you use doesn't matter. But having a base color down, even if you're going to cover all of it up, I've found to be very useful, because sometimes you miss a spot when you put all the basing stuff down. And also sometimes stuff comes off, right? You lose a little grass tuft or whatever, and if you leave the bare black spot, you're really going to see it. If the bare spot is the same color as all the other stuff, you kind of don't notice, but you know, future-proofs your army. So first things first, did that with the base. Now on the vehicles, I don't necessarily do that depending on what I'm doing with the base. So I'll actually go get a couple of examples. Hold on a sec. All right, I'm back. I had to grab a lot of things. Okay, so when I started my basing career, especially on the larger ones, this is what I started with. So this is actually an aggregate that I made up myself. Here it is in this tub. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of different rocks and aggregates that I got that I've mixed together, and I actually like pulverized with a hammer and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of different sizes and colors in here, and it's like that on purpose, because I find that natural rock looks best when it's left natural. If you take this and then paint it and then try to highlight all the rocks, they end up being too even looking and uniform, and that just looks weird and off, right? We spend all of our time trying to make it look real. Just glue the real stuff on and be done with it. And so that worked for a while. And for the bigger stuff, I still do that. You get into kind of these awkward sizes like the Killican here, and you can see I've got some texture on it, but it's not the same. I don't have the rocks. Kind of doesn't work, you know, exactly as well as I would like. So Then I went a little overboard, right? And I put all sorts of texture and all sorts of gubbins down there and use the rocks. So you can see I've got the texture there in the middle. I've got the rocks around the edge from the aggregate. I've got all the gubbins and things, and it's cool looking, but it took a lot of time. There's a lot of hours in this base, and also it's actually quite heavy, which for this is great because it's a flyer, and that extra weight actually really helps keep the base down. But yeah, this is gonna add up after a while. And then I got old Def Dread here, and you can see his base has a texture on it, and it has like kind of some brown spots on it where the texture kind of mixed wrong. So when I say texture, what am I talking about? Let me clear some of this junk out of the way so I can get to it. Haha! So AK Interactive. Now these guys make so many great weathering things, and really their bread and butter was old school fine scale modelers, right? Guys that built, you know, tanks and trains and planes and things like that. And they started doing things for the diorama builders. And then, you know, us miniature painters discovered it, and now they've just taken off with all sorts of really crazy stuff. I actually have quite a bit of different ones. Where's my ice one? Oh, nice one. Oh, there it is. Yeah, like I've got some ice sparkles for my Valhallans. And yeah, these sandy deserts. I've got like a wet earth one for my Eldar, and yeah, they're really cool. The problem with them is this one's fresh and new. I haven't opened it yet. As they age and air gets into them, they start to dry and they clump up. So it's kind of one of those things where you really want to pull it out and use it when you're ready to pull it out and use it. So I made the mistake of I'd have this thing open while doing like one base at a time. And all that oxygen that was getting in there really dried it up, hence me needing a fresh one. This is not going to look anything like that. In fact, I'm going to break the seal live on camera here. This is painful because these things are kind of pricey. Hence if you could save a couple teeth down on the link on these, that would be great for you. All right, here we go. Oh, this still got the, see, still good. Look at the difference, right? This stuff is like wet almost. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave all that on there so that it can, you know, stay as airtight as possible. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slather that stuff on here, and then I'm gonna take Gorky Morky here that we've been working on and stomp his feet into it. And that's particularly useful because in the end he's gonna be like this with one foot up, and so I want to show the footprint smashed into the base with the foot coming up out of it to really give that sense of weight from the Gorky Morky knot, right? And yeah, that's what we're gonna do with that. The when you have vehicles like the Def Killer Wartrike here, it would have been, I mean, I can't do it with the aggregate, but if I had put the texture base on here, I could have used the wheels to make some tire tracks in it, or an old wheel that's not on this model, and like rubbed it through to make tire tracks, and that would have looked really, really cool, right? And would have made it look like, you know, it's really zooming through the dirt. So there's all sorts of fun things you can do with these textures. Now, when all your texture is done, when all your aggregate is dry and things like that, then you get to put on these fun little grass tufts. And these are made by all sorts of different companies. And yeah, I actually quite like the Army Painter ones. These ones here. They're a little bit pricier, but they tend to actually stay. In my Army boxes, I've got a bunch of these tufts that have fallen off over the years down into the boxes. Then you got to put new ones on. These tend to just stay. The other ones, like the Green Stuff World, tend to kind of come off. They don't have as good of an adhesive on them. And also, I think they're just kind of like a little wonkier. These I'm really happy with. So if you're going to buy tufts, I'd recommend these, but you know, whatever brand works for you. Or, you know, you can go back to one of my first videos and do it yourself and, you know, weed whack some of your lawn and then just glue it on. That works too. Totally fine. Anyway, so that's all the basing stuff. And again, we'll have links down in the description below on all these. But what I'm going to do now is actually do this, hopefully on camera where you can see it, and then show putting the Gorky Morky foot in it so that you see what it's like to base. And then while this stuff is wet, I can actually put the aggregate on it too. To get that kind of 2-for-1 effect without having to use glue to glue down the aggregates. The acrylic here can actually hold it. This stuff is acrylic. It's basically like a really, really, really chunky paint, right? Bunch of texture in it. So yeah, that is basing. Do it however you want. Snow, ice, sand, dirt, mud, grass, beautiful green fields. They're all good. There is no wrong answer. The thing you want to come up with is a basing scheme that you like, and then you want to keep it consistent throughout the army. Now, it doesn't mean like necessarily the same texture. Again, I've got crazy textures all over the place on mine, but they are all the same color and value. And so when you put the whole army out on the board, it does look like an orc army that's rampaging through a desert somewhere, even because, again, real life is not monochromatic, right? The desert is not going to be identical everywhere, but, you know, you've got that same kind of hue and tone and feeling going on, and it ties the army together. And the more you can do that, the better the army looks. Actually, I can grab a few more examples. Hold on again. All right, old Big Mek's back again. All right, so these are my Imperial Guard. These are not my Valhallans. They are not based yet because they're from my childhood and other ones I picked up. But these are my old school Acadian guys that I've turned into, you know, some snow-based thing. You can see I've got some mud-based texture on there and then some snow on top of that. And even then, again, you end up with different textures. Switch camera. There you go. That's a bit easier to see. So you see I got, you know, a snow rim paint job on it. And then, you know, the little patches of snow and the little, you know, frozen dead tundra grass things. And you can see I even have like some snow and stuff on top of the static pieces here to really kind of tie it together. Another basing scheme has been this forest look that I'm doing with my Eldari, whatever the heck you want to call them now. And again, you get, you know, bigger tufts and more grass on the bigger bases and smaller tufts and smaller grass on the smaller bases, but you have that same hue and tone. Now this one, I've done the black rim on the sides to try that style on this particular one. I didn't want to do that on the Imperial Guard because it made them too dark looking, but for these guys, I wanted them to be dark, and then it makes that green pop so much more. So again, lots of different ways to do it. All right, so yeah, that was a few examples for you. So again, it's not the style here, right? Make your style your own. Pick whatever, you know, you want yours to look like. If you want purple rocks and, you know, pink mushrooms or whatever, totally cool, man. It's all great. The whole thing that this is about the technique of doing it. So come up with your style, figure out matching all your bases to make your army look chef's kiss awesome. But, you know, follow the techniques. So we're going to start off with the little guy here to show you, you know, what to do on the little ones, and then we'll do the big one. All right, set up the camera. All right, and away we go. So I actually use this metal, I don't think it's a dental tool, it's like a sculpting tool, but this is my preferred method of getting the acrylic out and onto the bases. And again, if I could find this, I'll link it down in the description below because it really is useful. So again, I'm going to try not to expose this to too much oxygen and, like, yeah, take it off the lid and things like that. Put that back on like I'm playing with super glue. Now, let's see. Make sure you can see that. There we go. So yeah, you basically just want to rub it off on the base there and then kind of spread it around and get that texture like he's in the desert. You can see this stuff can get kind of clumpy, kind of goopy, and that's why I like the tool is it's got this flat end on it that you can use to kind of get in between the feet and things like that and push the texture around so that you don't have too many clumps going on. And you can kind of scoop it and move it and do it. And so in the little guys here, I'm not using the rock aggregate anymore, or actually at all. I don't think I've ever used the rock aggregate on my particular little guys. And that's because I think the scale on it is a little too off. And so I just use the texture. Then I use the aggregates on the much larger bases. Now, for me, it's okay to be a little messy and like get it up onto the feet and stuff. Because again, we're orcs and they're weathered and they're a bit dirty and they've been out in the desert fighting and yeah, crumping and having a good time. If you are somebody that's into really clean paint jobs, I would recommend doing the base before you put the figure on it, and then you don't have those problems. So there he is. He's all done. Super duper simple. Leave this to dry. What I really like to do is, if I don't have a lot of time to work on something, having a bunch of basing ready to go and slapping all this on the bases and then letting it dry for a night is like the way to go, because you really can't touch this stuff for like 24 hours. Or at least 12, without it, you know, kind of looking weird or, you know, getting off. And yeah, this is what it looks like when it is fully dry and done. And yeah, and on the Big Mek here, I did the basing kind of early and then painted him on top of it. A little piece there. Put a little extra on. There you go. All right, so now for the big one. Now this one's going to be a little different because I do have to get kind of a whole lot on here in kind of one goopy go. So yeah, wish me luck. This might be like spilling Aggregate's Earthshade at this point. Don't normally put this thing this far into the thing, but again, I need so much of it right now. It takes a brave Big Mek to do this kind of stuff live on camera, even though I can go back and edit it out. Then I sound stupid when I talk about it and then don't do it. So I'll leave it in even if I screw up. It's always good to have a bunch of paper towels laying around too. Just saying. Okay. And again, I'm just looking for coverage here. I'm not making a pattern or anything yet. I just want to get it all kind of laid out on the top of the base so that we can get the feet prints in there. And then from there we can sculpt away. This may not look like it, but this is a lot of the stuff, honestly. This is probably a whole squad's worth of bases on one ginormous base. But I mean, he is a Gorka Morkanot. He is pretty darn big, so, you know, he's going to need a lot of stuff. Alright, looks like I need just a wee bit more. And again, on this one, I'm going to try putting the aggregate down too before it dries. So, you know, getting a fancy texture on there to really look like desert sands isn't necessarily required for this particular operation. See again. Messy. It's a good end of the night thing. Last thing you do, let it sit all night, dry, and all that good stuff. It's kind of like one of those ASMR videos. I'm just scraping plastic. Talking like Big Mek. Alright, that should be good. Okay. So now we've got like kind of, you know, some coverage all over it, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to take Gorky Morky here and we are going to stomp him into this with his feetsies to look like he's making a stomp. So kind of rock it back and forth on there. And yeah, that really didn't do a whole lot. I might have to build this up more. Alright, old Big Mek channeled his inner drywaller and really plastered the stuff on there. And now we can try it. And here we go. There we go. Kind of made a footprint, and also got some goop on him. So we'll let the footprints dry on there. Does it look like his footprint was in the back? Yeah, it does. Okay. Turn this so you can see it. It's going to be kind of hard to see it. Zoom in down here. And then so you can see right down here we've made his footprint where it's like it's got his footprint in there. It's kind of come up, and so we want to make sure not to put any rocks in there, and then add more aggregate around that section to really make it you know, sell what we're doing. We're gonna kind of rock it like that. And yeah, now you can just aggregate the rest of it, and then that is going to be a base for Mr. Gorky Morkanot. Always save your leftovers. Stuff's expensive. And just like that, we got a big, beautiful base for Mr. Gorky Marky Knot. So yeah, like I said, we'll let that dry, and yeah, it'll be all done and ready for his base. We'll put all the little tufts on after it's dry. So that's been the basics of basing here with old Big Mek. I hope you've been enjoying the videos all week. This, again, is the end of our first week of October. Doing a video every single day. I super appreciate each and every one of you. Every like, every share. Let a buddy know. Really, really appreciate it. Keep making videos. Having a great time with all of you. And until the next time, Wog on!